Okay, so I'm going to look at how you can combine a Monty walk with a Monty run. Okay, so I'm just going to bring in, I've got a walk here, as you can see. It's Monty walking. It's quite a slow walk, and I'm going to try and combine it with a run. I'm going to bring my run in, file, import. I'm just going to go and get my run so you can see the difference. Run, here's a Monty run. I'm just going to open this up. Okay, so I've got my Monty run. I'll turn my curves on so I can see it. I can see I've muted this channel, so I'm going to unmute this. This is the run. Now, if I look at these two together, the first thing that will become apparent is that it's quite a fast run and a very slow walk. So in order to get these to combine together, I have to make a good blend between them, which is going to be a little bit harder because there's such a discrepancy between the speed of one and the other. Yeah. So what I'm going to do first of all is I've got these channels. These layers here. I'm just going to delete these layers. I'm going to make some layers later and delete them. It's always good to kind of clean your scene up so it works for you. And I'm going to delete out the running Monty. I'll bring him in later. So let's have a look at this. I'm going to look a little bit more closely at this. So selecting I'm actually going to make a layer for the ground because that's always good. So this will be the geo layer or the ground layer. So I'll make the ground. I'll give it a brown color. Well, the layer a brown color, so I can turn that on or off. And I'm also going to make a special layer for my walking Monty. So I've just selected him here, and by pressing on this button, I can make a layer with Monty in it, and I'll call this Monty Walk, and I'll make this layer red. I mean, the colors don't really do very much. They will alter the color of some of your controls. That's about it. But I don't know. It makes them stand out in the display layer. So that's my Monty. Now what I'm going to do now is when I look at this, the first thing I notice is I have lots of keys between frames. If I zoom in a little bit, you can see this. Look, 9, there's frame 9 and frame 10. I've got all these kind of stray keyframes. So just to keep it nice and neat, what I'm going to do is I am going to select all my controllers. Now sometimes if you want to, I can select all my controllers like this and then just unselect the geometry and the eyes. Or if you want, another way of doing it is just turn the polygons off when you're selecting them, and just that way you only select the controllers, then you can turn it on afterwards. And I'm going to bake out 100 frames of this walk, so I've got a key on every frame. So I'll go edit, keys, bake simulation. So now as you can see, it's nice and clean. I've got a key in every frame. Okay, so the other thing I have to do is I have to speed him up a bit because he's too slow. So in order to do that, I am going to use, in my animation menu, I'm going to go key, scene time warp, add scene time warp. If I go to my graph editor, I can see the time warps here. So maybe I'll start him speeding up at about frame, I don't know, 40, 41, 40, so I say 45. And I'm just going to select one. To add a key using the key insert tool, you have to select one of the keys in the line. I'll middle mouse button and just put one there, and then I'm going to go to frame 90, middle mouse here, and put another frame. Now get rid of this, and I'm going to push this up like this to make it go a bit faster. So now if I look at this, I'll show it with you'll see that Monty, I'll just turn everything off except the polygons, so you can see Monty is traveling forward, and then he gets a bit faster. Maybe I'll Is that a bit too late? I'm not too sure. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, so what I may do is I may have him moving faster sooner, so I might just move these two. Well, I'll maybe start this. I'll move this frame. I can drag this frame. I can drag this over a bit, maybe here. Maybe frame 35. Drag it down a bit. And now have a look at it this way. See if this looks better. So yeah, I think that, okay, let's just say that's fine, that works. It could be a little faster. I can make it faster like this, but overall it seems to be okay. So I got my Monty, he's walking, and he's walking a bit faster, so maybe that'll make the join a bit easier. Now, this animation information, unfortunately, it is not, even though it's on because I have this time warp, but I want it on the actual keys of my character. So in order to do that, I'm just going to show my NURBS curves again. The first thing I have to do is I have to go to my anim layers, which is this tab here, and press on my anim layers. And then with all Monty's controls selected, not as geometry, just as controls, I'm going to make a new, by pressing on this, a new anim layer. Yeah? Now I'm going to bake out this animation that I had on Monty. Yeah, and it will only do it for some reason in Maya if you put all the controls that operate the character into an anim layer. Anyway, so I'll do this. I'll go edit keys and I'm going to run bake simulation. And as you can see, this is going to 200 frames. I don't need as many as that because I'm going to have a run coming in at about frame 70 or 80. So I'm only going to bake out 100. I seem to have a lot of frames here. Actually, I'll make it 100 in total. Yeah. So I'm only going to bake out 100 frames. And I'll go edit, keys, bake simulation. Now you can see now I have the keys baked out. But here's an interesting thing. If I was to play this back, you'll see it's running incredibly quickly all of a sudden. Like super fast. And part of the reason is because even though I've baked out the animation from the time warp onto the character, the time warp is still there affecting the character. So it's almost like it's making it go double as fast. So I have to go into my key scene time warp and I have to delete the time warp. I'll show you it's still there. This is still there. I want to get rid of this. So I go keys, scene time warp, delete scene time warp. Now I have an increased speed from because of the scene time warp that I baked onto it, but I don't have those. I don't have it doubled up by having the scene time warp still in the scene. So I've got the increased animation speed of it without actually having it still in the scene. Okay, now that I have the character moving faster, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the run again. So I'm going to just bring in the run. So go File, Import, and I'm going to go and get my Monty run. So here it is, number 3. Now, you know, as all things in Maya, I can see it's also brought in, I think it's brought in another ground plane, which I'm just going to delete. Like all things in Maya, you know, there are different ways of doing this. You can also do this with the tracks editor. But I find personally the tracks editor can be a little bit temperamental. And this is a way that you can always join two things together. So I've got my run in now. He's running on the spot. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit and I'll make sure, I'll just turn this mute off so we can see it. And mute selected. So I can see now that, you know, the guy Monty's still running faster, but you know, this guy, at least at the end, is moving a little bit more quickly. What I do now, the interesting thing is we can see that I'm going to clean the scene up a little bit. first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the anim layers because I don't need this anymore. That was just to bake out the walk cycle for Monty. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is, again, when I brought in the run cycle, what it invariably did was brought in all these extra layers. I'm going to delete these as well. Yeah, delete these layers. I'm going to make my